Power is not always taken with force. Most of the time, it is taken with the mind. The strongest advantage a person can have is not strength, money, or status. It is psychological control. Machiavelli understood this clearly. He knew that people do not act based on logic alone. They act based on emotion, fear, ego, and desire. In life, you will meet people who try to outsmart you, pressure you, or manipulate situations in their favor. If you react emotionally, you lose control. If you stay calm and observant, you gain an advantage they do not see. This is the foundation of mental warfare. To outplay someone mentally is not about being loud or aggressive. It is about being strategic. It is about understanding how people think, what they fear, and what they secretly want. Once you understand that, you can predict behavior before it happens. Machiavelli's approach was simple. Do not fight every battle openly. Let people reveal themselves. Let them believe they are winning while you are studying their moves. The goal is not chaos. The goal is control. In this breakdown, you will learn 5 ruthless psychological tricks that help you stay ahead in any situation. These are not emotional reactions. They are calculated moves designed to give you the upper hand in silence. Don't forget to subscribe. You might not see us again. Let's dive in. Controlling your reactions is the first and most important rule in mental power. Most people lose control of situations not because they are weak, but because they react too quickly. When someone insults you, pressures you, or tries to provoke you, their real goal is not the words they are saying. Their goal is your reaction. The moment you react emotionally, you give them control of the situation. You become predictable. You become easy to steer. Machiavelli understood this deeply. He knew that silence and emotional control are more powerful than any aggressive response. When you stay calm in moments where others expect anger, you change the entire power dynamic. You force them into uncertainty because they cannot read you anymore. And when people cannot read you, they lose confidence in their strategy. This is where control begins. Emotional restraint is not weakness. It is discipline. It is the ability to pause between stimulus and response. That pause is where power is built. In real life, people will test you intentionally or unintentionally. They will push your ego, question your decisions, or try to make you defend yourself. If you rush to explain, defend, or attack back, you are already playing their game. Instead, you stay still. You observe. You let their energy bounce off you without impact. This makes them uncomfortable because they expected control over your emotions and did not get it. Over time, this creates a psychological advantage. People begin to think twice before trying to manipulate or provoke you again because they cannot predict your reaction. They start to respect your silence more than other people's loud responses. Control of reaction also gives you clarity. When you are not emotionally disturbed, you see intentions more clearly. You notice patterns, inconsistencies, and hidden motives that others miss because they are too busy reacting. This is why emotional control is not just defense. It is strategy. It allows you to think while others are losing control. In Machiavellian terms, the person who controls their reaction controls the battlefield. Not because they are louder, but because they are unshakable. And in any competition, whether social, professional, or personal, the one who stays unshaken always has the upper hand. Making them reveal themselves is about learning to win without forcing answers or showing your hand. Most men lose advantage in relationships, friendships, and competition because they talk too much and observe too little. Machiavelli would call this a mistake of exposure. When you expose your intentions early, you give others time to prepare against you. But when you stay quiet and observant, people begin to reveal themselves naturally. Human behavior is not stable under pressure or curiosity. If you create space in conversation and reduce how much you reveal, the other person starts filling the silence with their true thoughts, habits, and intentions. This is where power shifts. You are no longer guessing. You are collecting data in real time. Many men make the mistake of trying to impress, trying to explain themselves, or trying to win approval too early. This weakens their position because it places emotional value in the hands of someone who has not shown their full character yet. Instead, you should guide conversations with subtle questions, short responses, and controlled curiosity. Let people talk more than you. Let them feel comfortable enough to lower their guard. When people feel unobserved, they act naturally, and natural behavior always reveals truth. You will notice inconsistencies in their stories, changes in tone, or hidden motivations behind what they say. These small signals are more powerful than direct answers. Machiavelli believed that power comes from understanding reality better than others, not controlling it openly. So when you observe instead of oversharing, you build an advantage they do not notice. In relationships, this becomes even more important. Many men rush to express feelings, plans, or loyalty too early. This creates imbalance because the other person now holds more emotional information about you than you hold about them. Instead, patience creates clarity. When you allow time, people show you who they are without you forcing it. They reveal how they act under stress, how they treat others when they are not trying to impress, and how consistent they are with their words. This is the real truth you need, not the version they present at the beginning. Making people reveal themselves is not manipulation in the emotional sense. It is strategic awareness. It is choosing not to rush judgment, and instead letting time expose reality. The man who understands this does not chase answers. He creates conditions where answers appear on their own. And once you master this, you stop being emotionally surprised by people because you already saw who they were long before they admitted it. Giving selective information is a psychological advantage that most men underestimate. In every interaction, information is power. What you say, how much you say, and when you say it, determines how much control you give away. Machiavelli understood that people use your own words as tools against you when they know too much about you. The mistake many men make is oversharing early. They talk about their plans, their emotions, their struggles, and even their strategies to people who have not earned that level of access. This creates vulnerability. Once someone knows your intentions, they can predict your moves, influence your decisions, or even compete with you using your own ideas. Selective communication means you never reveal everything at once. You control the flow of information like a filter, not a flood. You only give what is necessary for the moment, not what exposes your full picture. This keeps you unpredictable, and unpredictability creates psychological pressure in others because they cannot fully map your behavior. When people cannot map you, they hesitate to act against you. In relationships, selective information is even more powerful. Many men try to build connection by explaining everything about themselves too quickly. They think honesty means full disclosure, but in reality, timing matters more than volume. If you reveal your entire emotional state too early, you lose mystery. And without mystery, attraction weakens. People stop being curious about you because there is nothing left to discover. Machiavelli would argue that controlled silence is more valuable than uncontrolled honesty. This does not mean lying. It means pacing your truth. You reveal layers of yourself based on trust, not emotion. Another important aspect is strategic ambiguity. When you are not fully clear about your next move, people around you begin to guess, and when people guess, they reveal their assumptions. Those assumptions show you how they think, what they fear, and what they expect from you. That information becomes your advantage. Selective information also protects your emotional stability. When you tell less, fewer people can interfere with your mindset. Not everyone deserves access to your goals or your weaknesses. Some people only need to see results, not the process. This keeps you focused and reduces outside interference. In social dynamics, the man who speaks less and reveals less often appears more in control, even if he is not the most powerful in the room. That perception alone creates influence. People trust what they cannot fully decode because it forces them to respect boundaries. Over time, selective information builds authority. You are no longer someone who is easily read or easily used. You become someone who controls the narrative simply by controlling what is shared. And in Machiavellian terms, whoever controls information controls perception, and whoever controls perception controls the situation. Letting them think they are winning is a psychological strategy that looks passive on the surface, but is highly calculated underneath. Most men feel the need to correct every misunderstanding, respond to every challenge, and prove themselves in every situation. That need comes from ego, not strategy. Machiavelli would argue that a man who constantly needs to prove his strength is already losing control. Real power is often silent, and sometimes it allows the other person to feel ahead while you are actually guiding the outcome. When people believe they are winning, they relax. When they relax, they stop analyzing deeply. That is when they make mistakes. This is where the advantage is created. If you interrupt their confidence too early, they become defensive and cautious. But if you allow their confidence to grow, they begin to expose more of their intentions and plans. This gives you time to study their behavior without resistance. In social and personal dynamics, many conflicts are not won by direct confrontation, but by patience and timing. Letting someone feel superior for a moment can disarm their guard. They stop questioning your moves because they assume they have already understood you. This false sense of control is where they become vulnerable. Machiavelli emphasized that appearances matter more than reality in many situations. If someone believes they are ahead, they will act accordingly, and their actions will often reveal weaknesses you can later use strategically. In relationships, this principle is especially important. When a man tries too hard to compete for control or validation, he creates tension and resistance. But when he stays calm and allows the other person to feel in control of certain moments, the emotional environment becomes smoother. This does not mean surrendering authority. It means choosing when to assert it. Many men lose influence because they rush to dominate every situation, not realizing that timing creates more control than force. Letting someone think they are winning also gives you emotional distance. You are no longer reacting to every move they make. You are observing from a position of calm analysis. This distance allows you to see patterns that would otherwise be hidden in emotional conflict. Over time, people reveal their true nature when they believe they are not being challenged. That is when you learn what they value, how they behave under comfort, and how they handle perceived success. Machiavelli would describe this as controlled illusion. You allow perception to guide them while reality remains under your influence. Eventually, when the time is right, you can shift the dynamic without resistance because they never saw the real structure underneath. They believed they were ahead, but in reality, they were walking inside a plan they did not recognize. This is the quiet advantage of patience. The man who understands this does not rush to win every moment. He understands that sometimes the strongest position is letting others believe they have the upper hand, while you quietly control the direction of the game. Disappearing at the right moment is one of the most underrated psychological moves in power dynamics. Most men think presence is always strength, that being available, responsive, and constantly engaged gives them control. Machiavelli would disagree. He understood that control is not only built through action, but also through absence. When you are always present, always reacting, and always accessible, people begin to take your presence for granted. They stop valuing your attention because it becomes predictable. But when you withdraw at the right moment, you change the entire emotional structure of the situation. Your absence creates uncertainty, and uncertainty forces people to think more deeply about your value and your intentions. This is where psychological leverage begins. When someone is used to your presence and suddenly cannot access you the same way, their mind starts filling the gap. They begin to question what changed, whether they lost influence, or whether they misunderstood your importance. This internal questioning gives you indirect control over their focus. You are no longer actively pushing the interaction forward, yet you are still occupying their thoughts. In relationships, this principle is extremely powerful when used with discipline. Many men make the mistake of overexposing themselves emotionally and socially, always available to respond instantly, always explaining themselves, always trying to maintain connection. This creates dependency on validation rather than respect. But when a man knows when to step back, he resets the emotional balance. Absence creates reflection. It forces others to evaluate your presence instead of consuming it without thought. Machiavelli understood that people assign value based on scarcity and difficulty of access. If something is always available, it loses perceived importance. But when it becomes selective, it gains weight. Disappearing at the right moment is not about running away or avoiding responsibility. It is about timing your withdrawal with intention. You step back when your presence is no longer creating impact, and when overexposure would weaken your position. This creates contrast between your presence and absence, making both more powerful. During your absence, people reveal how they truly feel about you. Those who value you will notice the gap and adjust their behavior. Those who do not will expose their lack of investment. Either way, you gain clarity without forcing confrontation. This is strategic distance, not emotional weakness. It allows you to observe from outside the immediate emotional environment. When you return after absence, your presence carries more weight because it is no longer expected. People pay more attention because they realize they cannot assume access to you at any time. In Machiavellian terms, control is not only about influence when present, but also influence through unpredictability. The man who masters disappearance understands that power is not constant visibility, but controlled visibility. He does not stay where his value is wasted. He exits at the moment where his absence will create the strongest psychological effect. And in doing so, he teaches others how to value his presence without ever demanding it. In Machiavellian psychology, victory is not always loud or visible. It belongs to the man who understands people better than they understand themselves. Mental control is built through discipline, patience, and awareness. When you master your reactions, observe instead of expose, control your information, manage perception, and use absence strategically, you stop playing emotional games and start controlling the structure of interactions. Most people lose power because they act on impulse, but the man who thinks before reacting and studies before acting always stays ahead. In the end, mental dominance is not about force. It is about staying composed while others reveal everything you need to know.